what are all of us doing for a sustainability perspective. It's like Enfuce was founded, we're all bankers. We built the company to really do payments. And what is payments? Payments is the means and ways that we consume. Consumption equals emissions, emissions equals problems. So when we went to build Enfuce, we really wanted to enable the change in that sense. And of course, all of the capabilities and the problems that we have been here discussing, we have solutions to them already today. We just suck at, combining them. So I believe also that we have talked about collaboration. That is the key. And we should do, as Mercedes is also doing, we should collaborate with our fierce competitors, because that's the only way to become better. And also, if we look at the global perspective from emissions side, we want the Botswana farmer to also have the capabilities to feed his family and her family, have the lights on so that their daughters also can go to school and not try to study in the dark. So electricity is really important. Of course, payments, money, all of those are important. And what we did then, since we do payments for a living, and we're really good at this, I would even say that we're the best there is. And the reason why is that we really went in to solve the incumbent players' problems, to not have the problems that John was talking about, because you don't have to have it. It's just design. So when you get that in place, and then on top of that, you add the emission calculator. We also have My Carbon Action. But the idea with My Carbon Action was that it's not only telling how much emissions I got based on what I paid, because then you already had the problem. You already did that. And then to actually compensate, it's a challenge. It can easily be greenwashing, because there are a holy trinity to saving the world. It's to avoid emissions, it's to reduce emission, and it's to compensate. And you should always avoid, and should always reduce. And the only thing then left to do is to compensate. And then it's about, what do you do? Do you plant trees? Yes, plant trees is one thing, but it's then about, where do you plant the trees? What kind of trees? An average tree and its lifetime takes down 4 tons of CO2 emissions, and an average Finn emits 10.4 tons per year. So, there's this educational aspect of understanding what is the magnitude of the problem and how can I change. And of course, I need to say that I work with everyone in this scenario. So we are directly connected to Mastercard. We work with mobility companies such as Tranzer. And I'm really hoping to get my Mercedes soon, Eric. So I'm coming for you. So definitely all of these things are relevant. And I think what we need to remember is, let's not try to make it too complicated, and let's not talk so much BS, and actually start acting, because upon the actions, we can actually have the challenge resolved. And if I look at Enfuce, of course, net zero is what we are aiming to. We are part of the climate pledge with Amazon and many other companies all around the world. So when we started off the company, I wanted to have a company where I can do payments faster, globally scalable, and of course, sustainably. And for us, sustainability is not just about, green and emitting less. It is also about taking care of the people that work for us, having good collaborations with customers. So those are the things that we do on a daily basis. So what we buy, what I pay, okay, I'm a cheapo Finn. I don't like paying, I like getting paid. But in the end of the day, still, it's about how do I procure? And that's a lot what, for example, Eric said, that since they actually produce, meaning that they have scope 1 emissions, they have scope 2 emissions, and now the scope 3 emissions, which are all the things that their customers and themselves produce while doing their daily lives. That's where we also want to help, because the good thing is that governments are changing. Like Bas said, it's good that governments are pushing, and together we will change, because in the end of the day, it's about changing behavior. And the good thing with people are that we are herd animals. So when the many starts doing something, we will adopt it, whether we want to or not. And the bad thing is we are so fucking lazy that it will take forever. So we really need to emphasize and incentivize it.
Yeah. And which businesses do you think should grow in order to maximize sustainability?
Anyone who doesn't do more harm than good.
Yeah, so it's just a balance then, just to contribute more to the market than taking from it.
Yeah, and definitely, if you think about whatever it is in the world, of course, we want to make sure that there is a net positive effect in that sense. That, you know, when we produce stuff, when banks are in the core, because payments are in the core of emissions, and then we can see like there are many players that do different things with enabling consumption, and it can also be savings. So banks have a really good position, and in collaboration with other parties, to have these ecosystems where you can have then different reasons why to reduce. So if you look at Europe, or just look at the European countries, we are very different in the emission amounts, and a lot has to do with how we live, what we eat, how we go from A to B, like if you look in Finland, for example, long distances, small country, not that good public transportation. So we have a lot of cars. So, and of course, we like nice cars. And so in that sense, but they are very expensive. So we drive shitty cars. So again, taxation, etc., can have an impact. But in the end of the day, it's a choice per person. And I think that's where we all need to play a part.
Yeah. I really like the Monika's action point that we are talking sometimes too much and we need to act to collaborate. I'm curious about your ideas about what is missing. We're having roundtables, right? We have European Commission, the problems are there, but still cooperation every single time is a point that is missing. What would be your suggestion? To make it better, basically?
Try. Just do it. I think it's a mindset issue in the most, it's a mindset problem, and the mindset is then fed through excuses like compliance and security, and those are not real excuses. But I do think that it's mostly because if you're in a company and you don't have a clear vision and mission of what you want to achieve, why are you allowed to exist, and your people doesn't live and breathe it, then it's just words. And with words, you can sit in hundreds of roundtables and talk until you die, and nothing will change. So here again, I would say that the management and the leaders in companies have an even greater responsibility to walk the talk. So if you look at companies where we have these scandals or greenwashing or something, is that there was nothing wrong with the company strategy. There was nothing unclear of the mandate given by the shareholders. It was just that it wasn't implemented and executed for every person coming to work and believing it. And that's why I like what Eric said, that they are really proud of what they do. I am immensely proud of what we do and the people that work for me. And since I do things that matter, they will want to come and work with me. And then, of course, I also like working with big challenges. So I think these are important. So it's a mindset matter, and we need to actively choose every morning to be aware, because that's where diversity, equity, and inclusion comes in. I get a lot of like, oh, you're so different. You're like a middle-aged woman founding a payments company. Like, oh, and that's like so strange because it's tech and it should only be guys. And it's not true. On so many levels, it's not true anymore. And I believe that us women should have a close look in the mirror and say, how do we make sure that our kids and daughters are brought up in a way that everyone can have an impact? And that's why also diversity, equity, and inclusion, it's an active choice and active actions every day. Otherwise, it's bullshit.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more, Monika. Yeah.
I think one of the point I wanted to make there, I think to everything what we all said, is clearly there is a need for a cultural change at board level. I think most organizations are risk averse, and rightfully, but I think the other side is creating that trust. And trust is not something you buy, it's something you earn. And I think one of the things that's coming to surface is that the collaboration word is coming into play now, and more the trust is being created between the different stakeholders of different parties, So I think from a solutionization perspective, gone are the days where I'll go and build my own. Like to what Eric said, it's about creating supply chains, creating relationships, creating that trust between the different parties to actually do what you say and say what you do.